Thank you for tuning in to Uncommon Women, a podcast that provides a platform for women of all walks of life to share their upbringings, life lessons learned, experiences, and journeys to come. Uncommon Women speaks on topics that can relate to all women. We share, we listen, we laugh, we cry, and we empower each other to be the best uncommon woman that they can be. Ultimately, we are cultivating a global movement of women supporting women. Women supporting entrepreneurship, relationships, self-love, and so much more. We inspire each other to make an impact on this world for the better. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe to Uncommon Women. Now, finally, grab a seat, get comfortable, and hear from your wonderful hosts, Shanira and Jenny Lee. Hi, kings and queens. Thank you for tuning in to Uncommon Women. I'm Shanira.
And I'm Jenny Lee.
And today we have an amazing guest speaker that's going to come on and share her testimony in regards to how she started Grace for Grant. But more importantly, before we get into that, we're going to give you a little bio about Jacquie, an introduction for you guys before we get into the good stuff.
Jacquie Galvin is an Ohio State University School of Journalism graduate and author. She has pursued a number of writing and sales courses. She's also the author of several novels, including A Tease of Murder. Jacquie's story begins on a January day when her son becomes ill and never returns home. He gave her the courage to compose Grace for Grant. It causes a slew of storms, hurdles, and roadblocks in her life. However, there is a spot in the midst where there is life after death.
So thank you so much, Jacquie, for coming on today and be able to just express and share your stories of how you started Grace for Grant and how everything came all about. But before we get into that, can you tell us a little bit about your life and how was it growing up?
Well, first, Shanira and Jenny Lee, thank you so much for having me on the show. I appreciate it. I had a very normal childhood, grew up in a small town, very small town. In fact, I think it was just named the coldest town in Ohio.
Ohio.
Yes, in northeastern Ohio, about an hour southeast of Cleveland. And it was, grew up in an 18-room farmhouse, this old place that was just so much fun. And I have one older sister, and she's 5 years older. So sometimes it was a little like being an only child. But we had a huge garden growing up. We had an acre. My father had a quarter of it was relegated to the garden. And so I never thought anything about going to the store and getting produce until I left home, and it was like, this doesn't taste like what I got at home. And my mother canned and, picnics, and I had a great childhood. So it was, they gave me a typewriter when I was 8 years old, and the rest is history. Started banging on that typewriter and haven't stopped since. All I tend to do is, if I'm not on the typewriter, I've got a pen and a composition book in my hand.
So you started writing, or at least visualizing, of what you wanted to do at 8 years old, just from a typewriter.
Just from a typewriter. I thought, this is fun, and I had such a wild imagination. One of my sons, he went to a Catholic school, and at the time there were nuns there, and Sister Karen was the principal. And she was watching Grant one day, and I was standing next to her, and she said, "It's a little like raising Walter Mitty, isn't it?" And I said, "Yeah, maybe." And she kind of snickered and walked away, and I thought, she thinks I'm Walter Mitty too.
Right.
And she may not be far wrong. So, that typewriter took me a lot of places.
That's awesome.
That's
so
great.
Let's get into the Grace for Grant. How did everything start, or what was the process before you actually got to Grace for Grant? What was going on where your son got ill and everything just started to be a ripple effect?
Well, he in 2015 he graduated from high school.
Okay.
And as time wore on, he was starting to complain of a few headaches. Couldn't really find anything going on. His birthday was on the 4th of January, and he didn't feel that well. We went out to dinner. Looking back on the pictures, his face is gray. And that was a Monday. On a Wednesday, he couldn't keep anything down, had to go to emergency. Was okay. Friday, I came home and he said, "Mom, I think I've had a stroke." One look, said, "I can't argue that," and off we went. And from there, it just went into a crazy, spiraling roller coaster ride of healthcare and doctors and surgeries and medicines and craziness. And my friend Susan came up with this idea to showcase what was going on, because we had people who were saying, how can we help? We just asked for a few prayers on Facebook. And well, how's it going? Texts and messages and Facebook. How's it go? How's it? So I started doing updates every day. Thank goodness, because that's how I wrote the book. So she came up with the idea of Grace for Grant. Bracelets. Grace for Grant.
That's awesome.
And obviously, Grace for Grant. And just cool the phrase, and it caught on. And that was really the whole impetus of everything that came from there. And she said, "How about orange? Everybody uses every other color all the time. Hardly anybody uses orange." So she came up with orange. And it was Grace for Grant that blossomed from a few messages of asking for prayers to across the country, to friends telling friends, telling friends, telling friends, and prayers and candles and churches and cities I didn't even know, and Spain and France and Italy and England and Scotland and Canada. So it became a global thing of people watching what was going to happen next and hoping that this kid would pull himself out of this.
Right.
That's really how it started.
Do you think it was a possibility of being prevented, when he was talking about he was having headaches, or
no?
Okay.
No. It was a glioma, a burn tumor, and they have no idea what causes them, and there is basically no survival rate. It is more of a pediatric disease. And last year at this time, there was a little girl in my hometown. She was 4, and they announced it, I think, in April, and she died in June. It's just, there's nothing you can do. It's a tumor that attaches to your brainstem going down into your spinal column, which is the motherboard of your body. It relegates everything. Everything goes there, and from there, it's your breathing, it's your vision, it's your gait, it's your balance, it's your heart rate, it's everything. It's everything. It governs everything. So there's nothing that can be done.
No cure for it. That's what you're basically saying. It's basically no cure, because it's a ripple effect on everything in your body. Wow.
There's no cure, and as it grows, it can extend down the spinal column, and it can also short out everything that is in its path. So he was on a lot of different medicines to regulate the heartbeat and the blood pressure, and he would have a great day, and then he'd have a very down day. And when we first were in the hospital, they said, well, it's either a stroke, MS, or a tumor. If it's a tumor, there's nothing we can do.
Okay.
I never even heard the tumor part. Everything presented as stroke, and that's what we did.
Okay.
Right.
Through the whole process, what emotions were you going through there in this, what were you going through at this with everything going on, how are you feeling through all this?
As a mom.
Well, I thought we'll take him in. They thought it was a cyst in his throat. We'll deal with that and be home to watch football on Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
That was far from what was happening. So he stayed at one hospital for a week. He was transferred to the rehab facility at Tampa General, which is a very large teaching hospital.
Okay.
And he got there. I went to get clothes for him, came back. There was a team in a cart, and I thought, oh, assessment. This is good. He had a heart attack.
Mm.
The next thing I knew, we were crossing the bridge to the main hospital, to ICU.
Wow.
So it was, my ex-husband was with me, and he said, when will this nightmare end? But little did we know, crossing that bridge, it was only beginning.
Wow.
Only beginning. And we were outside, my boyfriend and I were outside the ICU door, and Father Len, the priest from the church, came walking down, and he said, hey, and I said, hey, what are you doing here? And he said, my mom had a stroke, so we're watching the hockey game. And he looked at me and he said, what are you doing here? And I said, Grant's behind that door. And he said, has he been anointed? And I said, no. So he came in, and they were doing an ultrasound to see what kind of heart he had left.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Which had actually gone down to about 10%.
Wow.
So they're doing this ultrasound on him, and the father's lined up next to me, and they're done. And Grant leans back in the pillows, and he looks up, and he sees Father Len and all his vestments, and his eyes start popping out of his head. And I thought, oh, shit, he's going to think he's here for last rites. So I said, Grant, look who I found in the hallway. His mom had a stroke too. Like,
Mm-hmm.
people who have strokes need company. So he, as sick as he was, he sat up and he looked Father Len in the eye and put his hand out and said, nice to see you, Father Len. And I thought, I got to tell you, that etiquette course when he was 9 years old was worth every cent. He's on a hospital bed with 10% heart function, and he still's remembering his manners.
Wow.
Oh, that's awesome.
So,
How long was he in the hospital for?
well, he went into Tampa General, and he was in the cardiac unit.
Okay.
And then his heart came back so fast. It was like a miracle. They said, this is amazing. I've never seen this before. It's back up to full production.
Wow.
So they needed the room, so they basically kicked him out of that room. But they put him in pediatrics.
Okay.
And they had a ball with him there. He loved everybody there. The nurses loved him. One day I walked in, and there were two clowns there. And I'm not talking goofballs. I'm talking big shoe, big hair. Standing in the doorway, and they said, we need you for a second. Come out here. And I'm so glad I didn't sneeze, because they stuck him in the center between the two, and they flipped bowling pins in front and back of my head while they filmed it. So
Wow.
I had to just stand there and not breathe while these bowling pins I could feel the air of them going by my face.
And they're recording this at this time.
And the nurse is recording this. And Grant was, I don't know if he saw it or not. He was kind of napping.
Mm-hmm.
But, from pediatrics, there was a pipe burst. So from pediatrics, we had to go to the neuro unit. So with each place that we went, we had to pull all the cards and letters off the wall and pack up all his stuff and get used to new staff. And the staff had to be known what was going on. And it was, it was a trial of, okay, this is what happened. This is what we're going. This is where we're going. This is what we're doing. And early on, in the cardiac unit, Grant looked at me and said, well, he couldn't speak because he had been intubated.
Okay.
He had a alphabet sheet that he pointed letters at to make sentences. Mm-hmm. He said, I'm afraid you're not going to stand up for me. And that was a real eye-opener. I don't like confrontations, so baby, he had a point. Mm-hmm. But from that second, I turned on a dime. I asked every question. If I didn't like something, I voiced my opinion. If I didn't understand something, I made them explain it. If I didn't want a procedure done because of the hour, I said no. And it made me, I think it made me a stronger person, having your child look at you and say, I'm afraid you're not going to fight
With
for
my
me.
back, right?
Wow.
You're not going to have my back. And I thought, oh no, that's not going to be the case. So, that's how it was. And you really have to advocate for whomever it is, because they'll run over you. They'll do what they want. They won't tell you what they're doing. You have to watch the meds. You have to watch what they're doing. You have to watch the staff. I mean, everybody has a bad day.
Yeah.
So I just had to be there to make sure that everything was going the way it was supposed to, and everything was being done that should have been done. So hopefully, from what I understand, towards the end when he was not awake, he was breaking into people's meditations and saying, we're doing great here, keep going, until the time when he could no longer do it, because he had one final brain bleed and it was over. And they figured out the tumor at that point. He had actually had the stroke, but the bleed covered the tumor.
Wow.
So they couldn't really see it, which is why we went with stroke protocol and kept working him towards regaining all his deficiencies.
Right.
So,
wow.
But the support from everyone was amazing. People visited. He had his kindergarten teachers came to see him, and the whole class had made a booklet saying "Get Better, Grant," and they all signed there. It's like 32 pages of these little tiny scrawls and pictures. So cute, so cute. And he was, still able to, hold their hands and talk to them at that point. So, but he had a lot of support, which he knew. So, and it's one of those things, and especially in the book, Grace for Grant, A Journey with an Old Soul. Get this thing straight. I have people tell me I'm laughing in one sentence and crying in the next, and then I'm back to laughing. Because as rough as the situation is, there's always something that can end up being humorous. And maybe humor is my defense mechanism. I'm probably like the Chandler Bing of hospitals, because when it gets tough, I start making jokes.
To cheer it up, right?
Yeah, I start on that track. So it was quite an experience. I'll never be the same. I don't think anyone in my family will ever be the same.
Right.
And I don't think anyone I know looks at me the same. It's just a life-changing experience.
Right. Was Grant your only child at the time?
Yes, he was my only child.
He was your only child. Was there a point in your life where, you supported him and you had his back, and then,
Always.
he passed away? Was there a part where you wanted to give up?
Yes, absolutely. I think it happens with death. I was having my toenails done because they looked so horrible. I couldn't go to the funeral with these horrible toenails. And the woman at the salon looked at me and she said, "What happens when it all goes quiet?" And I said, "When everyone's gone and everything has died down and it's just me." And she said, "Yep." And I said, "I don't know. I guess we'll have to see what happens." And that day did come, but there was also a lot of family around, and then kids around. I mean, I still have kids around. One of them is cooking on the other side of the computer. So, they're still all around, and it's really nice. And they're 24 and soon to be 25 now. And, it's nice to still have them around. but it's they say the third year is the hardest, and it really was.
Mm-hmm.
It really was. I was at the end of my rope. Why am I still here? What am I doing? Why? What's the purpose of my life? I have no purpose anymore. I don't even know why I'm still standing.
Mm.
And my poor boyfriend, Mark, was at his wit's end because he didn't know what to do.
Mm-hmm.
I finally found a neuro-linguistic program that has really helped a lot.
Okay.
I find that those are probably the best. Therapy didn't work very well for me.
Okay.
Whether it was on the phone, on the computer, in person, I didn't find any of those to be very helpful.
Okay.
So the neuro-linguistic programming was very helpful for me.
That's awesome. Okay.
So, but yes, there was a point where I said, I think maybe it's time I take my leave. And he said, that's not going to happen. We're going to have to sort this out.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Wow. You did mention that when you were 8 years old, you know, how they gave you a typewriter. But besides that, what else inspires you to write? Just like, you know, you wrote all these novels. What else inspires you to write as well?
I find that if I don't write, I have the craziest dreams ever. And if I write, they kind of calm down and go away. Otherwise, they're so vivid and so nuts that they bother me, or they keep me awake, or I don't get very restful sleep. And as I write, it tends to get all that out, I guess. They say there's two types of dreams. There's resolution dreams, and then there's the dreams of visitation.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you have a visitation dream, there's nothing crazy going on in that. Someone is just there to touch base.
Okay.
When the stuff is crazy, it's your subconscious coming forward and telling you these are the things that you need to resolve in your waking life.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of mine tend to be, I have visitations, but a lot of it is unresolved issues in waking life. And I can figure those out now, knowing what that's about.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it needs to go down on paper for it to just calm down.
Okay.
That's your piece. Writing is your soothing place, right?
Yes, it's a soothing place.
That's therapy.
It is therapy. It's hard to tell people that it's therapy to murder someone. Someone said, was this a different thing for you? I said, yeah, I'm used to murdering people, not, trying to keep them from dying. Usually I got the poison book out.
Right.
So, in fact, one day I was in my office, and I think I'd been in there for 3 days trying to kill a chambermaid. And you've been in here for 3 days. What are you doing? And I said, I can't figure out how to kill this chambermaid. I'm trying to get her to, I don't want her to die really fast. I don't want her to die too slowly. But
crawl into it, right?
It has to be just right. And he looked at me and he said, iodine. And I said, excuse me? And he said, iodine.
Oh my.
I looked up in my poison reference book, which probably cost me my first marriage, because every time he saw that, when he walked in the room in the reference section of the library, he said, she's going to get me with that.
Kill me well, you're a book author for that too.
I got weapons, I got poisons, I have forensics. So, maybe a little nervous.
You were a little scared, definitely.
That would definitely scare somebody.
Well, and then when the boyfriend walked in for the first time, he said, what are all these books? And he said, so I can murder people. He was like, okay. It's getting late. So anyway, I looked it up in my poison book, and there it was, iodine. I don't know how I missed it. It was perfect. I said, where did you learn that? And he said, science class. See you, Mom. Bye, Mom. Thank you. He was extremely smart. And I know everybody says that. All parents say that. But he was tested a couple of times. And they didn't even have a place on the graph for him. So the first time they told me that, I thought, some parents would be like, ooh, get him into college early, get scholarships. I thought, I am so screwed. This kid is gonna run circles around me. Surely did. He outsmarted me at every turn. He was a student of the world because his grades sure didn't show it. But he was a student of the world.
That's awesome.
Very smart. So
that's awesome. Is there something you would like to express for those that's grieving from losing a child or losing a lost one and, not sure how to just keep moving, keep going?
It is very hard and everyone is different. It obviously is life crushing to lose a child. And sometimes I wonder if I have left something untapped deep down that if it ever becomes tapped, I might like shoot off to the moon or something. But I have good family stability. Like I said, I still have a lot of kids around. When he died, my ex-husband was fired during this whole debacle.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
My company was like, whatever you need to do. I worked for Abbott Labs and they were like, whatever you need to do, do it. So he got fired. So eventually, like I'd say 5 months later, he needed to move back home because I was still in the house.
Right.
He still owned part of the house. So he moved back in to the guest quarters. And so he and my boyfriend and I lived together for 3 years.
Oh, wow.
So he was there. I wouldn't necessarily recommend that for everyone. Because people say, you're living with your ex-husband. The day we moved out, we all said, it's been really fun watching people's faces when we tell them we all live together.
I know.
And they said,
that's a whole nother.
We're going to miss that. Because it was fun watching people's expressions. I'm sorry, what did you say? The three of us live together.
Interesting.
Yeah. When I went to my first company meeting after it was all over, my big boss said, can I ask you a few questions? And I said, sure. And he wanted to know how I was doing and how they had done for us while he was in the hospital. And he said, and so how are things going now? And I told him, I said, I have a lot of support. My boyfriend and my ex-husband and I, live together and we have meals together and watch TV together and go out and do things together. And he said, I don't think I could ever live with my ex-wife. And I said, it's not a probably normal situation,
but you make it work.
But you make it work. And I think for the three of us, the comfort of, even if it was not expressed on a daily basis, the comfort of having each other there to lean on was important.
Right.
So I think maybe having someone to lean on is a very important thing. And although I know some people say social media, I could not have done without that community. They were the source of a lot of prayers and a lot of support and cards and letters and praying for Grant and
awesome.
Just letting us know you can't rely on yourself to just move on and go on with it. You have to stay engaged. And there's a lot of different things out there. People who've lost children. We have a set of friends. They lost their child. Wow. They invited us to come to their group, and to this day we haven't gone. Everybody has to find what works best for them.
I agree.
So it's not a one fit all.
Right.
One fits all. So it has to be something that you try and, okay, this is working for me. This is making me feel better. This is good. And that's how you have to feel through it. You just have to feel through it. There's a lot of people will tell you have to do this and you have to do that. You don't have to do anything.
Mm-hmm.
You just have to find something that
Work for you.
doesn't make you
Yeah.
angry or cry. And you do have to go through those 5 steps. You know, you're angry and you're in denial and you're, you know, grieving and all that.
All
Those
the
steps.
options,
And
right?
then finally acceptance. And that's a load of crap too, because you don't necessarily ever accept this. You
Mm-hmm.
just learn to live with it.
Mm.
Because it's hard to accept. People would say to me, I just don't understand why this happened. And I said, he was needed somewhere else. He was a very old soul to start with. He probably had something he was supposed to do, and off he went. And he's out there doing his thing. And he's from what I understand, he's very happy because he still breaks in on people's meditations. That's something he's not going to stop doing. So the only thing that bothered me about it all was how much pain he may have endured during the process because we didn't know what was happening to him.
What's going on, right?
Yes. So, and actually I had a friend whose mom was in the hospital at the same time he was in the hospital. They moved him to a step-down unit, and he came to me and said, they want to move my mom to a step-down unit, but I've looked at all these places and there's one thing they don't have. And I said, well, what is that? And he said, you. And I said, well, I'm not sure what to say to that. And he said, well, you'll make sure they do what they're supposed to do. And I said, well, do you want me to have them put her in with Grant? And he said, no, next door is fine.
Mm-hmm.
So Grant was in one room and she was next door, and I would go back and forth between the 2 rooms because he had been with her, and his business he was ignoring his business, and he couldn't. He's a art gallery owner.
Oh.
So it was tough for him to step away for such a large amount of time. So I kind of filled in,
and
he couldn't.
Wow.
So you know, it's just you have to just, like I said, maintain and try and monitor things.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, but like I said, everybody has to find their own source of comfort and what works best.
Okay.
Can you speak on your business and where we can find you?
We are at www.livelifesrichmoments.com. Our slogan is living gratefully.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a site that is really, right now, it is really centered on this, since it's just we're not even a month post-launch. It's really centered on this. Okay. I've been reading Amazon reviews. We're getting really good reviews. It's very exciting. Very exciting. And a byproduct that I hoped would happen but wasn't sure is that people are telling them it's really helping them. People who have had a loss, or people who know someone who's had a loss. At my book launch, a woman came up to me and she said, I want 2 copies, because in the previous 2 weeks, she had 2 friends that lost a 16-year-old and an 18-year-old.
Wow.
Back to back. So she bought them each a copy, because when she started to read it, she said, it's helping me to help deal with them. So it does seem to be helping people as far as how they're grieving or how they're looking at things. So that was his probably greatest wish. He wanted to write this with me. He never got that chance. But let me tell you what, he was definitely around while it was being written. During the pandemic, I said, okay, I'm going to sit down and I'm going to knock this book out. The day I did that, a crow showed up at the bedroom window and tapped on the window.
Oh, wow.
And my cat got up and went over to the window. I opened up the shutters, and the 2 of them communed for about 10 minutes. And then the bird flew away. The bird kept coming back every day, eating the cat's food, sitting around with us.
In the book.
Wow.
I have a picture of the bird sitting under the cabana in the on the patio chair And my cat is underneath the chair, and he's looking down at the cat, and the cat is looking up at the bird. And that bird would just come every day. Some days he brought his wife for breakfast.
Mm-hmm.
He was close to actually eating out of our hands. So he would come to the front sometimes the back, but he came every day. When he first came, I think he was building his nest. He kept trying to steal my artificial flowers out of one of my planters. Then he was trying to steal one of my orchids. Then he tried to take one whole plant. We named him Edgar Allan Crow, and I said, "Look, Edgar, you cannot carry the whole plant. Stop trying." So I think he finally got the nest built, and it was all fine. And I said, if this crow leaves when this book is done, we'll know who it was. Well, the book was finished. A week later, the crow was gone.
Wow.
And then a year to the day, because it came up in Facebook in the memories, that crow came back.
Wow.
He's still kind of around, but he came back, and we were actually getting ready to go ride bikes. And Mark said to me, "Where are you?" I said, "I'm in the back." He said, "What are you doing?" And I said, "I'm feeding Edgar." "You're kidding." I said, "No, I put a plate of food on my bicycle seat. Now he's sitting on the handlebar eating. So you're going to have to wait." So, yes, the bird is around. So it's Grant. And, sometimes my fingers were moving so fast on the keyboard that I could not keep up. So he was probably sitting right beside me going, "Come on." It took me 85 days to write this book.
Wow.
So, yes, I like to say he was probably sitting next to me with his foot up my butt because I wrote that book so fast. I was
about to say that's the whole book.
What's that?
That's pretty fast.
It is.
Fast.
Wow.
Because the first couple of weeks was gathering all of the notes from the Facebook posts, from the updates that I did every day.
Oh, that's awesome.
Gathering them and categorizing them and putting them in chronological order and finding a way to incorporate them into a thread, timeline. And then once that all started going, I'd write a chapter and I'd prop myself up in bed, write a chapter, read it to Mark, cry, and go on to the next one.
Aww.
So, he got to hear the whole thing as it was being produced. And then when the book was done, he read it. Then when this is a commemorative edition, this hardcover is a commemorative edition available only on the site. It has an extra bonus chapter.
Oh, okay.
Wow.
Okay. That's listed on Amazon?
No, it is actually at Live Life's Rich Moments.
Okay.
The paperback and the Kindle are on Amazon, but the commemorative, and also on the site with the commemorative edition, my operating officer here is a master engraver, and we got him a laser printer engraver, and he makes commemorative boxes. And
wow.
So we are actually selling those, and those are the commemorative edition with the keepsake box, which is a nice size you can put stuff in, with a T-shirt, and we have wine glasses, shot glasses, stickers.
Oh, okay.
Yes, we have. Oh, thank you, darling. This is the commemorative box.
Oh, I love it.
Oh,
and
wow.
That is a picture. It says Grace for Grant.
He's so handsome.
And at the other top of the page, over here, it says "Made for Mama Galvin." And so when you order, they'll put whatever you want on that. You have so many characters, and they can put whatever you ask for, custom.
That's awesome. It's
Wow.
custom.
It's
So
really nice.
I love that.
You
That's
can keep
awesome.
stuff in it. Yeah, as soon as people see them, they go, "Oh, I want one of those." So, yeah,
and that's
so,
listed on the website as well.
yes, those are listed on the website. And there's another one that we offer. It's not the commemorative, but it's a step down, and it's a mailer. It's in all the colors of the book, and it offers a T-shirt and the stickers and the paperback book. And I think there's something else in there, but those are another version of what we have to offer. And we're going to be doing other custom things, cutting boards, coasters, those type of things, as we branch out into other things. And our services, obviously, we're editors and writers and ghostwriters and bloggers. And so we do also offer those services as well.
Okay.
So those are important to note. And as we move through the launch, we are adding more and more services and products all the time.
Amazing.
But if you want, you can kind of get an idea of what people are thinking. If you were to go to Amazon and look at, and reviews are being added every day, you can read some of the reviews. I have, I think, 15 or 16 right now. I had someone tell me they were trying to get on today to do one.
Okay.
And they tend to be kind of slow in coming, but they're all 5 stars.
That's great.
Wow.
5 stars. And there's a couple of people in there, I'm like, I don't know who these people are. Yeah.
But they know you.
It's not just friends and family.
That's all that matters. Right.
So we like to see more of that. And I had somebody say, it helped me with my loss that I didn't even know I needed help with.
Wow.
So, you know, that was mission accomplished.
Yes.
Yes.
That's what he wanted. So
That's exactly what he wanted.
Yep. So that's what he gets. And this actually is done with a specific handmade, hand concocted oil that stains it and is a very special, ecologically safe oil that and it smells amazing. So it's a really lovely box. It's a lovely keepsake.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's, as far as the business is concerned, yes, go to Amazon and write a review and go to Live Life's Rich Moments and look over all the things we have. And we'll be putting some of the content back in. I have a lot of travel stories and a lot of photography and a lot of recipes. I do a lot of cooking. I have a lot of cooking videos on there. And
I'll definitely check that out.
I suck at cooking, so if I can do it, anybody can do it. So that's the whole purpose. You can't cook? I'll show you how not to cook. So, I'll get you something you can make. I can make it cooking you.
I love it.
So.
Yeah, so do I. Because I can cook, but I won't cook.
Yeah, well, I have recipes for you.
Oh, definitely. That's why I said I gotta check it out, because I will definitely check out the recipe.
Yeah, we'll be adding. And I also have, over the 11 years that I was a medical rep, instead of giving a Christmas card every Christmas, I put together a cookbook with a few recipes. Body and Soul, which are like salt scrubs, facial cleansers, oils, that type of thing. Then it went from drinks, appetizers, breakfast, lunch, dinner, and dessert. And I gave those books away at Christmas time to my doctors. And over the course of 11 years, I have like a 90-page cookbook.
Oh, wow.
So we're pulling that back together. And we'll be having that available as well. And those are recipes that are, there's a couple of difficult ones in there, but a lot of them are like, these are easy.
Yeah.
Do this.
Wow.
So, and the only reason that they turn out the way they are is because I screwed them up in the first place and they ended up getting better.
Well, you got to do something
wrong anyway.
That's the only way you can figure it out.
I call it unique pleasures. I should call it unique screw ups because I always did something wrong. So I have a coquille Saint Jacques recipe in there, which I made for a friend of mine one time, and he's a cook, and he was in the kitchen with me, and we were circling around each other cooking the recipe, and he said, when we sat down to eat, he said, "This is really good." I said, "It is really good." And I said, "I'm glad I didn't double that butter." And he said, "You put the butter in?" And I said, "Yeah." And he said, "I put the butter in." I thought, oh no.
Oh, you did double.
So there were some sections in there where I would go this way, he would come around this way, and he would
into the other
put
part.
something in that I had already put in. And it turned out really good, but it's like some of the ingredients were doubled. So there was a lot of butter in that. But it was yummy. It was yummy.
That's good.
When you cook with someone else who really knows how to cook,
Yeah.
make sure there's a master chef and then there's an underling. Otherwise, wow.
Oh my goodness. Thank you so much, Jackie, for giving us your testimony. I know as a mother that it is probably something really hard to deal with, but
Yeah.
you were given the strength and the courage to keep going, and that is amazing. And
Maybe this is what I'm supposed to do. I'm supposed to prop up those people who don't feel like they can be propped up.
Mm-hmm.
yes,
Yes.
Yeah.
I agree. Well, we have a question we ask all our guest speakers. What
Mhm.
makes you uncommon?
What makes me uncommon?
Yes.
Probably what makes me uncommon is I'm one of the more common people you've ever met. But then there's the other things that slide in. The fact that I write, and the fact that people take me for being very quiet, and that's not really true. And so as you meet me, I may tend to be kind of surprising, because you think you're looking at this, and then the next thing you know, you have this. And I've had some people just get very confused. What is this woman really? So, but I write and I sing and I manage. I run this household. When I sold my house, I thought, phew, there we go. I got rid of the big old house and the ex-husband again. We're not taking him back a third time.
She said again.
So, we're not moving in. I'm moving my kids in before I move him back in. And so it's the uncommonness is somewhat of the commonness, because I never pictured myself being the one who took care of everything. And I have moved into a slot where I take care of everything. And no matter what it is, if I don't know how to do it, I'll learn.
You figure it out.
Figure it out.
Yeah.
So I moved we renovated, this is my boyfriend Mark's townhome, and we moved in here. It was a complete wreck. Because he lived with all these women. He didn't ever live here. He would date somebody and stay over there. And I know why. Because when I came in here, I thought, oh my Lord, who would live in this pit? So when I didn't sell the house, I said, we're going to Home Depot. And he said, what are we doing? And I said, we're going to tear your home apart. And we tore it completely apart. I'm talking carpeting's up, wallpaper's down, walls are getting taken out. There's a lovely picture of me with a sledgehammer. Taking out just the cabinets. But I thought, I'm selling my house. I'm done with managing a household. Oh, no. Nope. All the renovations and all the inspections. We're having a new electrical panel put in tomorrow, and all that stuff I'm in charge of. He says, I don't want to have anything to do.
You didn't want to deal with it. That's why.
Yeah. He's like, well,
You do it. I'm out. It's not my house. I don't care. I'm not doing it. You do it.
That's awesome.
So here I am. There's another house. At least it's smaller than the one I had. The one I had was a lot bigger. And it was very old and had a ghost. Yeah, she messed with the kids for years. They had a ball with her. So she died in a freak accident, probably in about 1940. And her daughter showed up. Her daughter died when her daughter was 10. and her daughter was probably about 80, and showed up on my doorstep one day
Okay.
and told us all about everything. The house they tore it down. It was a 1926.
Oh, okay.
So
Wow.
she was, and I think she's still there. I'm hearing some stories from the neighbors. I left her there, brought my kid with me. So, and if you read the book, you'll know why I know he's with me. There's something he used to do at the old house, but the second we walked in the door to move in, he did it again here.
That's awesome.
Wow.
So he was a prankster. So
Yeah. Thank you so much, Jackie, for coming on and giving your testimony. I loved your story. It was moving and it was deep, and I just loved your spirit, and just thank you again. And thank you to our listeners for coming on this evening. Check out our apparel, our clothing at www.uncommonwomen.net. If you have any topics or potential speakers, or if you want to be a potential speaker, also, once again, check out our website at www.uncommonwomen.net. Next week's episode will be recorded June 29th. And celebrating Blindness Awareness Month. And also make sure that you like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. And stay uncommon. Bye.
Bye.
cheers.